Today on the Occult Detective, we're going to talk about James Mordechai's A Crack in the World. First, let me apologize for being a bit under the weather. I was out in the rain yesterday, and we went on a book buying trip, and I don't know, maybe I caught a little something, a little bug, but I'm definitely feeling it today, and not at my finest, but I will not let that stop me. So, I'm sharing with you A Crack in the World by James Mordechai. I met James on Twitter, and he offered to send me in advance a reader's copy of his newest novel. Let me share the back cover copy with you. 1994. Villages in Sussex, England are vanishing into thin air at an alarming rate. Gino Marcotti, the Grand Maestro occultist, son of the official occultist of the fascist Italian regime, is tasked to investigate by the Royal Paranormal Institute in Greenwich. His investigation takes an unexpected turn when he realizes that the black metal scene, with its recent homicides and arson attacks on Norwegian churches, is connected to these disappearances. But he soon discovers that there are bigger and more malevolent forces at play, and the only way to defeat them is to connect with his dead father. There's also a nice little blurb on the back here. Mordecai's imagination is vast, one of the great storytellers of our time, the Miskatonic times. He lists this as an occult detective novel, and it certainly fits into that milieu, although it reads to me a little more urban fantasy. I understand those two subgenres kind of cross-pollinate, but there's a feeling I get from an occult detective story that is different from what I get from an urban fantasy. And this definitely feels more urban fantasy to me, but if he wants to call it an occult detective novel, then more power to him, because, as I said, it certainly ticks a lot of those boxes. The characters I enjoyed quite a bit. Carter Williams and the Gino Marcotti, the occultist. I got the sense when I was reading this that the author was not someone who had grown up with and been obsessed with the strange and unusual, the more occult aspects. And so some of the occult stuff in here is a little less grounded in what some of us may be more used to, but it definitely fits within his worldview, and that's good. He had told me after the fact on Twitter that he was more of a science guy, and that he was a little concerned about the occult aspects, and he needn't have been. This is fiction after all, and his magic and his view of the other comes through, and it is all very consistent, and it's quite good. I quite enjoyed it. I would read something of his again, for sure, especially if you wanted to revisit these characters. I do have an issue, and this is, I guess, maybe where the urban fantasy comes in. This is an alternate reality, right? So magic exists. It's, and everybody knows it. There are occult orders and government agencies all interacting, and I typically kind of shy away from those kind of stories, but Mordechai did a good job of just kind of sucking me into that world, and yeah, I definitely overlooked that, so it was a lot of fun. So I would recommend it if you're into occult detective fiction. Certainly, if you love urban fantasy, definitely that. This is very, very steeped in 90s nostalgia. Here, I'm gonna read just a little snippet from it. Um, this is from a chapter called "Back from Oz." Gino looked at the trees passing by his window. A much better view than the M25's dull succession of gray cars flashing away like meteors that had left a half an hour earlier. Just 2 hours had passed since he was told by an overexcited Emma that Hartsbridge had reappeared. He couldn't believe his ears and had asked to repeat what she'd said at least 3 times. "You were right," she said, "about your synchronicity theory. It's all connected. Yesterday, all those signs about Manchester, and today, the reappearance of Hartsbridge. Someone or something is trying to show me there are connections I have to follow, and..." Gino heard her almost starting to cry and decided to say something. "Yes, why don't we talk about this in Hartsbridge, okay? Let's meet there." "Yes, I'm on my way. I'll wait for you guys there. Emma, last thing. Did you talk to Abbott about the well?" "I didn't have time yesterday, but I will today. I'm sure he'll understand, after all that happened. Trust me." Carter was driving the Ford Escort as usual. He hadn't spoken for almost the entire trip. Gino knew what was going on in his mind, and he knew it without making use of any of his mind-reading tricks. He couldn't make use of them anyway, even if he wanted to. He, like everyone else at the RPI, had made an oath that he would never use his powers on his colleagues. So yeah, so that gives you an idea of kind of a feel for it. Good stuff, a lot of fun. And again, I'll put a link down below where you can order it if you're interested. Like I said, good stuff. So apologies for being under the weather as I am, but we press on and press through, do we not? I'm going to spend the rest of today maybe reading some Dickens. There's one story in particular that I kind of had an interest in, one I had not read. We picked this up a short time back, The Hidden Charles Dickens, and it has a story in it called The Story of the Goblins. So here's that book, spine. Before this ends up sold, I wanted to make sure I read that story at least. I am a Dickens fan, so sorry to see this one go, but hopefully it ends up in a good home. And I'll let you know what I think about his little short story. I venture to guess it's got nothing to do with Kentucky goblins, but you never know. All right, until next time, keep on reading.